Now, there are plenty of things that completionists need to cross off to really ensure they've gotten their fill from a video game, but sometimes you can do everything right, and you still just need to go boot the whole game up again to see everything there is to see. While there are New Game Plus modes that just involve you going through the motions all over again, perhaps with a nice little buff or a level bump, we're here to talk about the New Game Plus offerings that make things a little more exciting. Maybe there's a new enemy to encounter, a great new piece of gear to pick up, or a mechanic that changes the game. Whatever the case, here are a bunch of secrets to be found only by those dedicated enough to let the credits roll on a game and then jump right back in. I'm Jess from WhatCulture, and here are 9 video game secrets hidden in New Game Plus. Number 9. The truth behind the lost civilization, Heaven's Vault. Inkle's 2019 adventure game Heaven's Vault might have passed you by as it was kind of a sleeper hit, but it's got this really cool sci-fi archaeological vibe, and its really unique format carries through into its New Game Plus. Even if you're a diligent completionist, there's only so much you'll have been able to put together while seeking the truth behind a lost ancient civilization in your first run. You can still get a great ending, but many of the game's discoveries will remain unsolved for you. While other games use their New Game Plus modes to give you a boost in combat or retain your gold, Heaven's Vault lets you carry over your library of translated words in the ancient script. Now, puzzling out these translations and their implications for the game's lore and how they inform the culture you're investigating is a game-long journey that you won't be able to finish up your first time around. The mechanic of interpreting these phrases by using your best guess and nailing down the translation is one of the game's best features. So finding out you can dive back in right where you left off and learn the rest of the backstory and the culture's true history in a second or third run is really satisfying. There's also a ton of branching paths here, and the game will adapt to your choices, so there's lots of reasons to dive back in. Number 8. Magic Sunglasses, Fez. Indie platformer Fez and its creator Phil Fish made quite the splash on the gaming scene when it arrived in 2012. You're thrown into a 2D world which you can rotate to line up platforms and solve puzzles. The game was beloved for its art style, nostalgia-eliciting design, emphasis on discovery, and engaging gameplay mechanics. But all that doesn't end when the credits roll, because there's a treat for players who are willing to go through it all again. The New Game Plus mode gives players a pair of sunglasses which lets you see the world in first person. Basically, this means instead of seeing everything in 2D, you can see in 3D, allowing you to check out the floors and ceilings, find hidden areas, and solve new puzzles. If that secret isn't exciting enough for you to dive back in, you'll also get the ability to fly in New Game Plus. That's pretty cool. Number 7. The Sweetest Revenge, Chrono Trigger. Not many games do New Game Plus quite like the Chrono series, perhaps excepting our number 1 entry, but we'll get to that later. That's because Chrono Trigger was the first game to coin the term New Game Plus. The classic JRPG lets you keep your levels, stats, learn techs, and top-tier gear. The game also has a whole lot of different endings you can unlock, but even with that, it's still not the coolest secret hidden in New Game Plus. The game has you face off against the final boss at the beginning, when you're too weak to face off against him. Not so in New Game Plus though, where there's a chance you will be capable of taking him out, which is about as cool as it sounds like it would be. It also opens up new secret endings if you can take him out at one of the earlier opportunities, so if you're only going through the game once and losing at that initial hurdle, you'd miss a bunch of extra content. Being able to body bosses who absolutely destroyed you in your first run is also pretty bloody awesome. Number 6. RUNE Point Do-Over, Dishonored 2. Dishonored 2 switched things up from the original game by offering you 2 different playable protagonists to choose from, Emily Kaldwin or Corvo Attano. The game illustrated the same phenomenal stealth gameplay design as the original, incorporating exciting side missions and multiple approaches. It stands to reason then that the New Game Plus mode of a game that has built a lot of its reputation on letting you play however you want to and giving you all these different playstyle opportunities would be kind of a slam dunk. As you'd expect, you will be able to retain all of your bone charm traits, assigned runes, and any blueprints you found in your previous run, but it gets better. You'll be able to re-spend all of your rune points, so no matter whether you choose to play as the same character or switch it up, you can build your playstyle from scratch with the points you've already earned. Not only that, you can mix and match Corvo and Emily's powers to create the playstyle of your dreams. This is a great way to refine your previous attempted build or try something completely different. Number 5. New Game Plus currency, Shin MEGAMITENSEI Devil Survivor Overclocked. If there's something we can generalize about, at least when it comes to the JRPGs on this list, it's that they love providing alternate endings, and they really know what they're doing when it comes to a New Game Plus mode. Genre heavyweight Shin Megami is no exception to either of these rules, as the 2011 remaster Devil Survivor Overclocked has a really interesting system to offer those who are up for a second run at it. Essentially, the tactical role-playing game not only plays out different events depending on your choices each run, and offers up multiple endings to those who satisfy the requirements, it essentially gives you a New Game Plus currency. You'll gain it through completing various objectives in the previous run, and it can be spent in the New Game Plus shop, where you trade it in for the ability to carry over things like items, demons, or funds. You can even use the points to unlock new bosses for the next run, so that's pretty cool. Number 4. ZENKICHI from the jump, Persona 5 Strikers. While Persona 5 Strikers kind of hurts my little Persona 5 Royal obsessed heart since the game pretends the events of Royal didn't happen, there's still more than enough to love in Strikers. From some excellent new characters to plenty of brand new systems, it might still be more of a companion to the main experience, but it's still well worth playing. That extends through to the New Game Plus mode, where you'll not only get all the goodies you expect, like retaining your items, money, equipment, Persona Compendium, bond levels, and so on, but there's another special thing you'll get early access to, which really makes it worth playing through again. This is the bit I kind of have to give you a bit of a spoiler warning, so if you don't want to hear about one of the coolest reveals in Strikers, I'll meet you over at number 3. In the original run of the game, you'll spend a lot of time with police detective Zenkichi Hasegawa. He's an entertaining dude with a lovely backstory, but it's not until almost the end of the game, after the 5th jail, which is essentially a dungeon, that he actually becomes playable. It's here that the New Game Plus mode absolutely delivers, as it lets you play as Zenkichi from the beginning, which is a big deal since his persona is pretty damn powerful and also we love him. Number 3. Forget everything you know, NIER 2. NIER 2 is a really interesting one when it comes to its New Game Plus offering, because not only do you get to retain your items, gear, kodamas, and soul cores in preparation for taking on tougher enemies, you're really going to need them. That's because NIER 2 doesn't stop at just giving its enemies more damage-dealing potential and health in its New Game Plus modes. It goes a lot deeper. To address the elephant in the room first, yes, I did say New Game Plus modes, as in plural. NIER 2 has 4 of them, each making a variety of changes to the game world to make things significantly more different and difficult for you. These range from bosses gaining new attacks to modified enemy movesets, new mechanics, and switching out regular enemies for DLC enemies in main story missions, which is about as tension-inducing as it sounds. There are also new grace set bonuses enabling you to try out entirely new playstyles. If you can somehow make it all the way through that, you'll also get access to the Underground, which is basically a dungeon that consists of 100 floors for you to fight your way through. Number 2. Ancient Cave, Lufia 2 Rise of the Sinistrals. Lufia 2 is a 1995 role-playing game developed by Neverland for the Super NES. If you're doing the maths on this one and realize the game came out a little before Chrono Trigger, so it can't technically have a specifically titled New Game Plus mode, look, you're right. But the game does have a retry mode where you'll run through the game again with 4 times experience and currency. If that sounds like a pretty boring thing for me to have put on this list, that's because that is not what we're here to talk about. Drop back in for the second round of New Game Plus, and the game that was Lufia 2 is replaced with an area that you encounter in the main game called Ancient Cave. This whole third run-through of the game just drops you into this dungeon that consists of 99 randomly generated floors. All you can do is descend, gear up, loot powerful weapons, and try to survive. By all accounts, the enemy variety and complexity of this area actually make it even better than the main game, so it's definitely not a New Game Plus mode to turn your nose up at. Number 1. The Endings, NIER Automata. There was just no way we were going to get out of this list and not include the reigning king of all New Game Plus modes, NIER Automata. There's an argument to be made that the New Game Plus modes of Automata are so integral to the story that you can't separate them, and not to experience them is to not experience the full game at all. But given that they are really that important and crucial to the story, you can see how it ended up in our number 1 spot here. Each new level of New Game Plus unfolds more of the game's fascinating story, satisfyingly weaving everything you've learned together into a seriously moving tale you'd be remiss to avoid. The second playthrough puts you in the shoes of a brand brand new character, experiencing many of the same events, while the third delivers entirely new content that you'll experience as a new android, A2. There are so many branching routes that this game keeps a hold of you through multiple runs, even when the content does repeat. And with 26 endings to experience, to call the New Game Plus modes thorough would be an understatement. Almost every secret you're really going to want to know from NIER Automata can be found in its subsequent New Game Plus mode endings, so do yourself a favor and don't skip them. That's the end of our list, but do let me know down in that comment section if you can think of any other secrets that can be found in video game New Game Plus modes. As always, I've been Jess from WhatCulture. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. If you like it, come say hi to me on my Twitter account where I'm at Jess McDonald, but make sure you stay tuned to us here for plenty more gaming goodness.